Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We had an absolutely fantastic time yesterday. I would like to introduce myself again though today. My name is Timothy Cross. I am the Share Faith Media Director and I have David Choate here with me again. They asked us back, which is
Allow
fantastic.
myself to introduce myself. That's right.
We weren't sure.
We did have.
We weren't sure if they're going to ask us back, but they did. I think they're stuck at this point.
Despite our best efforts, Tim, they kept us around. So we're gonna keep going, and really excited. It was great just having an extended conversation about Easter with all of you, and what we're gonna be doing in the coming days is to just explore different topics, interview different leaders within the church community and different technology leaders, and really looking forward to that. One question that did come in that I think people are asking is, hey, we kind of came in through a certain brand and we're not all the way sure who is Ministry Brands.
Ministry Brands? A great question that we're going to answer
what's going on here. So first, let me give you the official statement. Which is a family of software companies dedicated to empowering churches, ministries, and faith-based organizations in a digital world. But what that means and why I'm so excited to be a part of Ministry Brands, one is we are a collection of software companies that work together and are able to, in working together, meet the needs of the church. And then even more importantly, behind each one of these products is a team of people that are leaders in ministries, leaders in church, leaders in technology. And so the ability to bring us all together and speak to the church, I think is an exciting thing to be a part of, and something that we're glad that you can be here for and to ask questions. And on that point, if along the way we hit a product that you're interested in knowing more about, or some sort of service that you think would be of value to your church, please remember, Tim, you can say it today in light of your stumblings yesterday. Oh, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it.
Say what?
CareTeam@ministrybrands.com is where it's so good. CareTeam@ministrybrands.com. Send all of your emails there, ask questions. And we got flooded yesterday with tons of great questions and comments. And it was our privilege to answer those.
We did. Yeah. And kind of to that point, that mission statement of Ministry Brands is we are here to help you as a church be successful in this world of technology. And we are everything David mentioned, lots of different tools at your disposal. And we have, basically, you need something, we have a solution for you, which is what I love about Ministry Brands. We're all in this together, and we're here to help you. That's why we're doing the daily webinars. So,
and real quick on that resource, the URL there, info.ministrybrands.com/ministry online. Tons of resources that your church can use right now as you, look toward Easter and go, how do we do Easter online, but then beyond. So please visit that. I know our moderators are going to be dropping that URL in the chat section.
And we're going to keep adding more. And we're going to keep adding more. So as we do these daily webinars, as we get more resources, we will continue to do that. So bookmark that page, because that page will be it'll be a valid resource even beyond this current season that we are in as a church. So it'll be a fantastic tool.
100%. So let's give a little bit of an overview where we're going the rest of this week. Today, we've got a fantastic discussion lined up. First, we've got Brandon Frazier from Life Church Tulsa. He's the worship pastor there. And so really looking forward to how Life Church and Brandon in particular is navigating everything going on with COVID-19. And then that conversation is going to naturally lead us into a discussion on live streaming. So we have got Sean Dunster from churchstreaming.tv here, and he's going to be oh man, I'm super excited. Great guy, so knowledgeable on this subject, and he's going to come in and lead about a 20-minute discussion on that. And then I don't know, Tim, if you want to jump into some of the other things coming this week.
Well, yeah, I just want to add into that point with Sean. We got a lot of questions about the technical know-how on how to get started with streaming. So that's why we're bringing him into today's webinar, kind of the two-parter inside of the webinar. It will be a really good conversation there. So later this week, we have Pastor Dave. He's a senior pastor at a church, Claymore Assembly. It's a little bit of a different perspective. So today we have Brandon. Tomorrow we have Pastor Dave. It's a more rural style church. He's did his first ever online
I know, it's
video for
awesome.
giving. It's going to be a fantastic time because not
only that, he gave online for the first time, which
did he?
Just
oh,
awesome.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's a great example of, sometimes you just got to go for it. You don't know exactly how you're going to get there in the end, but sometimes the best step is sometimes the journey, you have to start the first step. So I love it. So that'll be a fantastic conversation. And then definitely another quick reminder about the ADF webinar that's happening a little bit later on Thursday as well at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So definitely check that out as well. And then finally, Friday, David.
Friday we
tell everyone what they're winning. I'm just kidding. It's another webinar. You're winning a webinar on a Friday. It's gonna be fantastic.
Friday we're gonna have a discussion about your church website and your church's mobile app. A fantastic conversation with a good friend of ours, Jonathan. He's gonna walk us through some of the principles behind doing that well and some things that you should keep in mind with your church website and your church's mobile app as we head into the Easter season. And I think with that, we are ready.
Let's do it. Let's introduce the man of the hour.
The myth, the legend, Brandon Frazier from Life Church Tulsa.
Hello.
How's it going today?
Oh, it's pretty good. The sun's out and we're in our house. That's pretty much that.
Please excuse Tim and I if we're just obnoxious through this whole thing. We can't help ourselves. We can tell already that you're a more even keel personality.
No. It's cool. I'm feeding off your energy. It's all good.
Good. We're going to throw a lot of energy your way. So
I like it. It's good.
First, why don't you just give everyone watching a bit of background on yourself and your role at Life Church?
Sure. Well, my name is Brandon Frazier. I've been with Life Church for 14 years now, and I've been a worship pastor there the entire time, except for about the first 4 years. I was a youth pastor and a worship pastor when we started the Hendersonville, Tennessee location, and then moved to the Tulsa area to launch the Broken Arrow location, and then I went to the South Broken Arrow location. So I've got 3 campuses in 14 years, and it's been an incredible ride. The whole time. So my wife, Casey, is actually on staff at Ministry Brands, and she and I've been married for 13 years, and we have 2 little girls. So it's a good life.
That's
nice.
Right. We forgot to introduce you as Casey's husband.
This is true.
That's what she was asking.
This is Brandon,
right?
Casey's husband.
Yes. You had very specific instructions, and I'm going to get in
Life Church Secondary. Yeah, sure. Well, okay. Why don't you, I think one of the things that a lot of us are curious about is what was your approach as everything with like social distancing and home quarantines came about? What was your approach to staying connected with your local church, and what did that look like? And what were some of the changes you made or ways that you approached it?
Right. Well, we are a church that utilizes heavily on our volunteers because we run really lean staff across the board just to create that, just to be able to be a lot more nimble with how we do ministry and able to kind of move around a lot more quickly. So one of the things that we've done, and a lot of, I think, almost every campus is doing right now across the U.S. is we're just making phone calls to people. So within our staff, we have about 11 to 12 people on staff, and we just split up phone calls between all of us and just called our people. So, you're talking about a couple thousand people. So that's, over the course of days, you get down to it, but the value in it has been unbelievable because people actually feel cared for. They feel, needed. They say, we say, hey, we're not at the church, but we're not, off work here. We're not off doing what we're doing. Letting them know that they feel cared for is the number one priority for us, for sure. So we've done phone calls. We've leveraged social media. I've spent more time on social media the last few weeks than I have the last few years because it's at worship. Our worship department, actually, social media falls under us at each location. So that has been our point number one, where we have a lot of centrally driven stuff that comes out, but also we're responsible for local stuff as well. So pointing people towards our outreach partners, if people are in need of food or clothing or shelter, things like that. So that's been another piece to it.
I love that. I love the working together to make those personal touches with the phone calls and the social media. That it's not just relying on one single person. I think that's fantastic. What a
Exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, what we know, one person couldn't do it, obviously alone, because it would, that's a lot for one person to ask one person to do.
Do you have, I was just one of the questions in my mind, did you have like a structure on who would contact who? Like, how did you kind of divvy that out?
Yeah, well, we have a fantastic operations team of 2 people on our staff at South Broken Arrow.
Gotta do what you gotta do with what you got.
Gotta do it. So they actually created a great Google spreadsheet that literally just had the names, numbers, emails of people that have actually given those things to us, and they collected all that information and sent it out to us in a Google spreadsheet. And then we had our names by them. So as we were going, we said, called, and if it left a voicemail, I type in called, left voicemail, or called, and then we'd have a prayer, like a prayer request sheet tab to it. We'd hit that, and if anybody had any major needs or requests, that way we all can join together and pray with people, which again, in this time, prayer is one thing that you can't quarantine. So
I love that. Now you mentioned to us that you did your first live stream from your house, your first live worship from your living room.
I wish we had this clip, everybody.
I'd love for you to just talk through what that was like, kind of some of the challenges you faced, some of the things you learned, and kind of where you're at with it right now.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, as a worship pastor, I know that worship comes from the heart. In Romans 12, it says that we are living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. That's our spiritual act of worship. We offer ourselves in that way. When you're talking about sitting on your couch in front of an iPhone and a ring light, you have to really hone that in and know that you kind of have to make it's really a lot more personal, because everyone's doing that in the same way. They may have a couple of people around them that are gathered around watching it, but that was the perspective going into it. And literally just used our phone. We have a little ring light that has a little camera holder in it. And we just did it that way. And it's a lot more raw, even though we're utilizing technology. But the cool thing is that you actually get to speak from your heart to a very captive audience of people. And so it wasn't as tough as I thought it was going to be, but it ended up being really, really great. And people were just commenting like crazy on that live video. So people were just saying, I really needed this. Thank you. I really needed to hear from my pastor, my worship pastor in that way. And
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love like you said, you're still using technology. It's like you use the tools that you had. And even for Life Church, who's been doing live streaming for as long as I can remember, and definitely one of the leaders in that space for a long time, I think it's awesome that we're sitting here right now, everybody, and he's like, we just used our iPhone.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Use your iPhone.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't have to have, a crazy setup to do this. Because we're just trying to reach people where they are right now. And of course we still want to make it excellent, because we believe excellence honors God and inspires people. So we still want to be excellent with everything that we do. But we also we've never used technology as a crutch for us either, which is why that personal human interaction always has to be paramount. Whether we're opening the doors of the church or whether we're live streaming, we do know that we're connecting with people, and we still want to reach people in a real way. So that the heart behind it's got to be is really the main focus of what has to be there.
Yeah, on that idea of excellence, I think one of the things where churches get concerned is they're like, okay, we do want to do something great, but you've shared some pretty encouraging stuff about a willingness to try new things, mm-hmm. and almost a necessity of failure to move forward. And could you just share a little bit on that and your
Sure.
perspective?
Yeah, excellence is a core value, but at the same time, we also we believe that failure is not an option, but it's a requirement. Because in order to do something well, oftentimes you have to fail along the way. So, and that's directly from our senior pastor, Craig Groeschel. It's directly from him that we're going to try stuff. We're going to get in the weeds with some stuff. We're going to try it. If it fails, all right, what did we learn from this situation? What did we learn with how we approached it? And how can we look at it differently and actually adjust our focus and try it again? It might fail again, but we're going to try it. And then eventually we're going to get to a spot where we have something that's really tangible. So I think giving yourself grace in this period as well is really, really important, because, just know you may not do it perfect on the first try, but at the end of the day, what is perfect? You know your people, the people that attend your church, you see them, you talk to them, you know their stories. Every story is valuable to God. And so we know that we're gonna reach them in the best way that we possibly can because we know our people.
Yeah, I love that, and I would say like you give yourself grace, but I would venture to say that your church is giving you grace along the way as well.
Oh,
like
yeah.
everyone watching, so everyone today in the webinar, I would like my feedback would be as well. Give yourself grace,
Yes.
like what Brandon was saying, but also no, I would wager that your church is saying, hey, we're here for you. We understand that this is a crazy time for the church, and we're here to support you, and there's grace being given to you too. So don't let fear stop you from going forward with it.
Exactly. And it's a pretty humbling thing too, to put yourself out there, even if you're just holding your phone in front of your face. I mean, it's a pretty humbling thing, because you can go back and watch it again and go, oh, I say a lot, or, oh man, but hey, again, like, cool out, because we're all trying to figure this thing out together. And with no really insight and with no real end in sight, it's kind of hard to say when this is all going to be different again, or go back to the way it was, so to speak. So
now your first live worship from your living room, you chose to go with pre-recorded rather than like a true kind of live. What was your thought process in that, and what are some of the advantages, disadvantages with that approach?
Okay, so the advantage of that, I'll start with the advantages. The advantages of that is that I'm able to pre-produce it, make it look good, make it sound good. We actually used a microphone, just a little, $140, Blue Yeti mic, USB mic. You plug it in and it just works. So we use that microphone, and Casey and I, my wife, we're just in our living room sitting down, and we just recorded everything. And I was able to then go and put it into video editing software, and then put lyrics in there and things like that. The only thing is, if you don't want to interact live, or if you want to interact in a live setting, like where you're actually speaking to things that people are saying, then you're going to lose that aspect of it. But you will be able to comment, like, let's say you're on your church's Facebook site. That's, for instance, ours is Life Church South Broken Arrow. So I had someone else logged into that, and we could actually still read what was going on. And we used OBS with that, and it took a little bit of doing to figure it out, because I'd never done it before, but there's enough YouTube tutorials out there
the great teacher of our generation.
It is the information
YouTube University. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So learned how to do it from there. And then I did a couple of test broadcasts, which is very important, because I learned what not to do through some of that. And then we went with it. And not to say that we'll do that every time, because I definitely think there will be some at some point where I'm going to do that. I'm actually doing a devotion tomorrow on our South BA page, and I'm going to do that live, because you can't pre-record that. I want to be able to see what people are saying and pray with people live in the moment as well. So, those are the kind of the advantages, disadvantages of it. And only you can really decide what's right for you and what's right for your church, for sure.
Awesome.
It sounds like even with that, I was just going to add, it sounded like what I loved most about what you were sharing is that you did both, and you're trying both. And kind of like to our earlier point, it's kind of like failing forward in a sense. Is like, you're not quite sure what's going to land with your audience and your church the best.
Right.
So just being willing to try things, I think is a fantastic. So I love that you've tried both. I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Try both. See what happens. You definitely try a live thing first, I would say. Don't let your nerves get you, or fear get you with any of that. Just go for it and see what happens, because you'll never know what God has maybe called you to say, or told, or specifically told you to say. And then we want to be obedient in that. And if God's telling us to do it live, then let's do it live. Let's make it happen. So, we got to be just patient with it. It's 1 week at a time. We're taking it week to week, just like the rest of our nation, the rest of our world right now is taking this 1 week at a time. So, you might not nail it the first time, but you keep trying, because it's worth the effort.
Yeah.
Well,
good.
that's awesome. I know we want to bring Sean in here.
Sure.
Before you go, though, if you a couple things real quick, if you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit to what you're finding with CCLI, all the music licensing and what's going on there. And then also maybe after that thought, just share some of the free resources that are being offered through Life Church. I know that a lot of churches would find some value in that as well.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. As far as CCLI goes, we were very careful. We had those conversations earlier on because we started doing the live streaming as soon as we made the decision to not have services in physical locations. Worship pastors started putting out live worship streaming. So one of the things with CCLI that I think we have to be careful of is not just assume that they're going to kind of be lenient on that. We've chosen to do a lot of the free, a lot of our songs, actually pretty much all of our songs, from if we're streaming from Facebook and things like that, because you kind of get into this mechanical type of licensing with that we have to be really careful with because it's going to be rebroadcast over and over and over again. So a couple of thoughts.
Can we clarify real quick for everyone when you say our songs, just so everyone's aware?
Yeah.
No, you're
sorry.
good. You're good.
Yeah. So, songs that were written and produced by Life Church. So we give that stuff away just like everything else that we do. So with that, we give the rights to that kind of stuff away. And so you can just do them. And that's part of our heart as a church. And that's where that's how we want to serve the capital C church, the church as a whole. So
I would say, everyone watching right now, what he just shared was that you can, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, but you can use Life Church songs without worry of CCLI because Life Church is giving them away for free, including all the rights that you need to stream those worship songs. So they're worship songs that you can play in your services on your live stream without worry from CCLI. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we give all of our resources. So our website is open.church. So open.church is where you can go and and you literally get everything for free as far as free resources for your church. If you choose to do that, and for music, it's, we have loops and lyric videos and things like that you can feel free to download and use at your own discretion. And honestly, another great way to do it is our would be going the route of public domain songs. So, Your Amazing Grace, or your Nothing But the Blood, things like that. Songs that have been written a long time ago, and now they're public domain. That's another safe bet too. And also, a lot of people know them. So that's another great way to engage people as well.
That's great.
The resources for Life Church are one way, or a tool for people to use. All of our stuff is scrubbed off of it, so you don't have to worry about any of that. But stuff for kids, things like that as well. Anybody's welcome to log on and download as they please. So.
Well, that is fantastic. Casey's husband, I want to thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Anytime.
We had to throw it in one more time. We had to.
That's terrible. Brandon, seriously though, even what you shared there at the end, just about songs in the public domain and the songs that are available through Life Church. I know there's a lot of churches right now where that's a point of just stress. And so what you've shared is hugely valuable. And I know you're busy and you're trying to figure stuff out just with your local congregation. So thank you for making time to be here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a real honor to be asked, and again, any way that I can help serve the church as a whole, that's the heart. That's the heart behind it, because we know that we're all in this together, and in these times is what I found over the years is that the church unifies in these times, and there's no petty differences anymore. We embody the heart of Christ during this time. So that's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you here, man. Thank you so much.
For sure.
All right. Well, let's, we got like a transition slide here, Tim, before we.
I think so. I think we prepared ourselves a little bit better than yesterday.
Oh my goodness. And is Sean's getting ready to join us. I just want to real quickly talk through some live streaming principles. We have a lot of great resources available for you on the ministry online site that we've been referring to earlier. We have a live streaming guide. It'll talk you through the process of live streaming. And I think that's really a great way to think about live streaming, that you start simple and you get set up with whatever you have, whether that's a mobile device and Facebook Live. And then you look at, how do I expand what my church is doing and stabilize the streaming that I'm doing? What software, hardware do I need? Who is my streaming partner? We strongly recommend churchstreaming.tv, great organization, and just a long history with live streaming. And then finally, really looking at what you're doing and going, live streaming's more than solving a technical problem. It really is about creating community. And so what are some of the principles that we do in order to make that happen?
And with that, here is Sean Dunster.
Thanks,
Take it
guys.
away.
You guys are having way too much fun. This is actually a great group to be part of, and you know, as I said, church streaming is just one element of Ministry Brands as a whole, and collectively we work to solve all the issues that churches may be facing right now, and then beyond this is, you know, how we can help your ministry. So, you know, that's where our hearts are. That's how we like to approach everything that we're doing. Streaming right now, obviously, it is a big deal for churches because it is keeping that engagement going, despite the doors being closed physically. There are new doors opening that allow us to still connect with our congregations, to connect with the message, especially a message of hope right now. That's huge, and people need to hear that. So, you know, we want to help you, at least empower you. And I think Brandon, what he said is absolutely right. I mean, you've got to start. Nobody likes the way they sound or the way they hear when they first start out doing this. You watch yourself and you're like, oh, I sound awful. You know what? You're not as bad as what you think you are. And it gets better every time you do it. So it's okay. You start somewhere and you progress. So I want to kind of give you just an overview of really where you can start and what are the things you need to be thinking about if you're moving into that streaming world. If you're looking at, you know, I've got only a limited budget, or I have no budget, what can we do? Well, you know, we'll talk a little bit about this now to try to help you and understand where you can go. So let's go ahead and go into the first slide, Tim, and let's start with what pretty much everybody has, and that's, you know, the smart devices, and that's going to help you get connected as quickly as possible, up and streaming. And I say this, you know, it doesn't have to be through a streaming platform like us or any other streaming platform that's out there. It can be a direct point-to-point through Facebook, to YouTube Live. Those are great, quick, easy ways to get connected in and still connect with your congregation. There are some caveats that I'll put with that, and we'll discuss those in a little bit. But I think if you want to get started somewhere, everybody's got access to a smart device for the most part, whether it's an iPhone or a tablet or, you know, Android device. Any of those pretty much can work to get you connected. And you can do it, as I said, to Facebook Live. If you don't have a church Facebook page, you're going to need to get that created, and then you can start there and getting people used to that. So let's go into the next one real quick, Tim. In the smart devices, they're so inexpensive comparative to if you had to get AV equipment. And for the most part, a lot of your folks have them already. So you can tap somebody and say, hey, can we use your phone or tablet for this? The training curve on it is very quick, because everybody, for the most part, has the ability to use these to a simple set of, look, you point it to where we want to shoot, and you're good to go. You know how to set up the camera. What's nice also is that there are free apps that you can download onto your device that can connect to a streaming platform. So when you're ready to move into that realm where you get connected to a platform like church streaming, where we can take your signal from your smart device and then we can distribute that out to multiple channels. So to your website, your church website, but also to an app that you may have, like our Ministry One app. It integrates with that perfectly. It can also go to Facebook Live and YouTube all at the same time. Many of you may have heard way back that if you're going to Facebook Live, you can't go to YouTube at the same time. Well, Facebook changed that back in late fall last year, where they dropped that restriction on your streaming. So now you can stream to both social media channels at the same time, no problem. Another thing, somebody I noticed put in here earlier on the chat, and I wanted to bring it up right away. is for your older congregants. This is something where they said, maybe they're not good at using a smart device and they're so used to using just a phone. Facebook is implementing a new feature in their Facebook Live where they're going to provide phone numbers that somebody could call in and listen to the audio of a broadcast if they can't watch on a smart device, if they're not comfortable. So somebody who's much older, that might be an option. I don't know if that's been rolled out completely yet, but that is an option that is coming that can help with those older congregants. Okay, let's go to the next slide here, Tim. I want to keep moving along for you. Okay, smart devices. The first one is a big one. Tripod rule applies. And now you may have seen it from the picture at the very beginning slide where all those devices were connected onto a tripod. They were being held and they were connected. You want that because you don't want somebody in your either a volunteer or staff member holding up a tablet or phone for the duration of your service. It's not going to be steady. You may give a bad viewer experience on the backside because the picture is kind of shaky. So you want to have it locked down somewhere, which is a nice vantage point, and you want to have it, depending on what you're trying to see, that you're not too far away, but then you're not too close. You don't want somebody who's getting their face right up in there in the camera, because that gives a bad experience to where somebody feels like you're invading their space. So you want to frame it nicely. You can, if you get to this point, you can connect several of wireless devices. Say you had 4 iPhones. There are programs out there like Sling Studio, Switcher Studio, that you can connect those phones together over Wi-Fi, and you can switch between these different sources. Now, those are a paid-for service that you have to use, but then they can connect to a streaming platform like Church Streaming that we can still distribute the signal out. If you're using a smart device, think about where your audio is coming from. Smartphones, like this phone right here, the microphone on it is right there. It's very, very small. So it is not a very good quality microphone for anything that is out in the open. It'll pick up some music, but it'll be a lot of echo. Same thing for a spoken word. It's going to be a lot of echo. So think about where you can get clean audio. A lot of churches have a soundboard that they already use. So maybe you take the input or the output from the soundboard and put it right into your smart device. It works great. There is a device called an iRig, and it's I-R-I-G. That iRig, you can plug it right into your soundboard and then take the output of that and plug it into your smart device. And that way you can control the volume going in, and it gives you a clean audio feed. And so no matter what microphones you might be using for the speaker or for musicians or a singer, it'll come through the soundboard and into your smart device. There are other devices, and Brandon mentioned this as well, that they're great to plug in right away into your tablet or into a computer that you're using. They're great for USB ports or another type of, and that can be for like an intimate setting like this. If you're just having one on a table and you want to talk to somebody, those are great microphones to use. There's other ones that plug right into the iPhone or into your Android, right into the Lightning port. Those are great to use as well. So let's move on to the next one here, Tim. As we look at cameras, if you are looking to move a step beyond, from where you don't want to use a tablet or a phone, but you want to maybe invest in a camera, or you've got a camera already. Most cameras today all have what's called an HDMI or an HDMI mini port on it. That means you can take the signal output of your camera and run it to a streaming platform. That will allow you to get connected to many other destinations. Cameras, though, can run the range here. You can see from the left to the right in their ability and complexity. The one on the left is pretty much your point and shoot camera that you can pick up at any electronic store or over the internet. As you go all the way to the right, that's what's called a PTZ camera, and that is something that is mounted. And once it's mounted, you're not going to move it anywhere, but there is somebody at a control panel who's controlling where it points, what it zooms into. It gives you flexibility to be able to manipulate several cameras all from one central point, but it is a lot more expensive than the one on the far left. So let's go to the next one, Tim. So as I said, cameras going to range right in price from about $150 to $2,000, maybe a little bit more, depending. You can go a lot more expensive, but for this, you really don't need to. You can start off really simply with a $150 camera. Camera's going to be in either HD or UHD, you may have heard that, ultra high def, or 4K. Really, you don't need to spend the money on anything for 4K. It's not worth it. It is not going to be something so noticeable to the people at home that you're not broadcasting in 4K. So don't waste the money on that. Use it for other things that you need in your church. You need a simple HD camera. As I mentioned, the video out of the camera will come through what's a mini HDMI port. Most of us are very familiar with mini HDMIs because we have it for different devices in our homes, or the HDMI cable on our TV, that type of thing. But then you'll also be able to record the service right on an SD card that goes into your camera. That will allow you to have a local recording, as well as if you send it string ours, we record it for you as well. So there's 2 copies of it. You have to be thinking about where you're going to put these cameras. Are you going to have what's called a static camera? And that is, you put the camera on a tripod, and then you point it at a certain location, and it doesn't move. The camera just is framed to a certain shot, and it's left that way. Or are you going to have the camera operated volunteer, where the volunteer is going to be able to zoom in and pan side to side to see different things that are going on in the church? So you have to think about what your use is going to be. That's how you're going to set up. As I already mentioned, the PTZ camera, that's remote controlled, but that is a central point, and one person can control multiple cameras on that. Think about where the setting is going to be. So if you're going to be in a sanctuary that's very, very long, are you going to put the camera at the very back of the sanctuary so you get the most view? Or are you going to put it up close? If you're putting it in the back, you have to make sure it has a good enough lens that it can zoom in tight to where you want to see with clarity what's going on. Certain cameras are better than others. If your sanctuary is a little bit darker, you want to take a camera or get a camera that has the ability to do well in low light. Low light is just a real killer for a good video experience. If somebody at home really can't see the definition, see the detail in your image, it's a bad viewer experience. And we keep going back to that. What is the end user experience? What are they seeing on their end? And you want them to not be distracted by audio problems or video problems, but you want them to be in the moment of worship. And I will hit it again. Where's your audio coming from? Those cameras that I pointed out all have inputs where you can take the audio from soundboard and put it in there. So that's going to be a clean audio that you're going to want to use. And again, using a tripod. Always use a tripod. Let's go to the next one here, Tim. Encoders. Now, encoders may sound like a scary word, but it's really not. If you're using a streaming platform, much like church streaming or anything else, you will need to have an interface. The encoder is all it does is it takes the video signal from your camera or from your AV equipment, and it converts it into data that can go out over the internet. Now, there are 2 types of encoders that you can get. You can get a hardware encoder or a software encoder. A software encoder is like Wirecast Studio. They are partners with us. We highly recommend it. It's a very good program that allows you to do a little bit more high-end things with it. You can take your video signal into a computer that has the software encoder Wirecast Studio on it, and then you can stream out one signal, but have multiple cameras coming in to that input, so that you can switch between cameras. You can put lower third graphics and text on your screen. You can do pre-rolls. You can do a lot of things out of that one program. There is a cost to that, and there is an ongoing subscription with service on that year over year, but it is a higher end production value with it, and it is easily accessible. Right now, you could download the program and have it this afternoon and start playing with it, so you can get it pretty quickly. OBS is another one that we integrate with and works very, very well on your computer. You just want to make sure you have a computer that has a high enough processing speed and a video card to be able to take the video signals into it. When I talk about a hardware encoder is a device that's about a little bit larger than the size of a smart device or smartphone, and it's pretty simple. The joy of this one is just a plug and play. You plug in one side, the video signal, and then the other side is the internet cable that goes out. What you like about that, it's a one-time purchase for that type of thing, and there's not a lot of bells and whistles to it. It will just give you the signal encoding that you want to go out on the internet, but it doesn't give you the capabilities that like a software encoder have. So that's something that you have to look at, and what is your best use that you want to have. Okay, Tim, let's go to the next one. Okay, so if you're using a streaming platform, as I said, like church streaming TV, what you can look at is multiple destinations that you want to send to. Yes, we talked about at the beginning, to get started, if you're going to Facebook Live to establish a presence, that's great. You know, the adoption of Facebook Live, where everybody knows, that's going to get you into the door. But as you grow, Brandon talked about this a little bit, and it goes into the CCLI license. Both Facebook and YouTube have algorithms in their programs that will look for music that they think is in violation of a copyright, and they can pull down your streams without you even knowing it until you see that it's gone. So if you've built up an audience that is only on Facebook or YouTube, on either one of those, and your stream goes down, then there is no alternative for your congregation to watch. There is no alternative for them, anywhere for them to turn. So this is why we hit home that you have to diversify your destinations. So going to Facebook, absolutely. Going to YouTube, absolutely. But also go to your website, embed your video player in that live window on your website so that you control the stream, you control the content. So what our platform does, you send the signal to us, then we can send it to all these destinations at the same time. So if you build a website with ShareFaith or through E360, we can help embed that signal right into your website. If you want to go to an app, the Ministry One app, it integrates already on the back end. So your live streaming will come right in there so that you have all the function of your Ministry One app and the live streaming together. We also designed Roku and Apple TV channels for people. So now you've got multiple destinations that you can go to that will help diversify, and then you're not as much at risk for if something happens to one of these channels, you've got the other ones to rely on. All right, Tim, let's go to this last slide here. So some other things to really think about. What is the internet service like in your area, in your church? Right now, it's tough for everybody. We are all in a new paradigm of trying to figure this out. And so as we're all walking through this together, you as a church and as congregations and we as technology, we're trying to take advantage of what we can see in terms of the internet and what is happening in traffic. Everybody's on the internet right now and they're using it. So you have to really look at what is the quality of service that you have in your area? What is it in your church? Because if you're going to be streaming out through a streaming platform or anything else that is directly connected to your Ethernet line, you're going to need to know if you've got a good enough internet service to handle that. Make sure you've got the good ancillary equipment around it. Sound, lighting, we talked about those already. Those are important. The CCLI license, Brandon talked about that, and that is a good point. If you already have a license, you should be okay. But, and I say but, you have to make sure that your license does cover digital distribution, digital streaming. There are some older licenses that do not. So just make sure you clarify. And there is a website. If you just go to the CCLI license website, you will be able to see all the particulars that you're going to need to make sure that you're covered. If you do any secular songs, those typically are not covered by CCLI license. And again, those are subject to copyright and it could get you pulled down from a Facebook or YouTube stream. So just be aware of that. And that's something to consider. Other things, the quality of the streaming video, what are you going to stream at? And we can help you get that set up in terms of the resolution bit rates. Those are a little deeper topics, but those are things that you're going to have to consider. We talked about the multiple destinations. Brandon talked about these a lot. Know who's in your audience and then being able to speak to them. We see it right now where a lot of churches are jumping into it. And it's tough for a pastor or worship leader, or anybody else who's doing this for the first time, to look into a camera and kind of build up that same type of emotion and connection that you do when you see people right in front of you, the faces. That's really tough. And that takes practice and you have to work at it and you have to do it. But know who's out there, connect with them just like you would if they were sitting right in front of you, and work at that. Know what their experience is on the other side of that camera. Know what they're viewing, how they're seeing it. Don't reference things that they can't see. If you're referencing something that might be on the screen in your sanctuary, if they can't see it, then you've kind of lost them. So you're going to really have to spell out a lot more things for them than you normally are used to, rethinking the way you do that. Okay. And then again, when we talk about viewer experience, we think about how are they engaging with you. If you think about chats or other things, think about how you can connect with them throughout the service and afterwards. And then the other big thing is your marketing communication. Be consistent with what you're doing. If you start a stream on a certain day, so you're going to say you're going to pick your Sundays at 9 a.m., that's going to be your stream. Those are the ones that you want to go to. And you want to then be consistent every week, getting people used to appointment watching, appointment worship, so that they know that you're going to be there every Sunday at 9 a.m. and then communicate that as many times as possible to stay engaged with your congregation. So that's just And I know it's a very rapid, a lot of information, and we're happy to help walk through any of this with you further. But this gives you just kind of a brief idea of how streaming is supposed to work. We don't try to overcomplicate it, and it doesn't need to be, but I know it can seem overwhelming jumping into it for the first time. Oh, I'm not hearing you, Tim.
Oh, Tim, I think you're muted there.
Oh, there we go. All right,
There we go.
better. Better.
Tim, for about 10 seconds, you were the best I've ever heard you.
Thank you.
Just
Silent.
yeah.
Beautiful. I was saying, well, it's better now because I actually can say the link correctly. I was going to say that we have a lot of ebooks available to really go in more depth on what Sean was talking about on info.ministrybrands.com/ministry-online. Just I'm going to get a tattoo of that on my forehead. No, I'm not. That would be a terrible tattoo.
And there they can find a free offer right now for church streaming, right, Sean?
Yes, we are doing a free trial, 90-day free trial. So if you sign up, we will get you started in streaming, and you can try out our service. But there is no cost to you unless there's a bunch of equipment that you want to buy on your own. But for our end, there is no cost that we're going to be charging to get you up and running for streaming.
Love it. Thank you so much, Sean, for just kind of going through that and explaining it. I know that live streaming can definitely be one of those fear things for churches because there seems like there's so much, but I felt like you did a really good job at kind of explaining all of the options that every church has right now. And from the big churches that have the cameras in place ready to go right now to the churches that don't have anything, most people have a smartphone these days, and it sounds to me like you can even use your smartphone. You're good to go if all you have is that. So fantastic, Sean. Thank you so much for just kind of sharing that. We will definitely, just so everyone's aware, we'll keep hitting back these resources for church streaming throughout the next couple of days, throughout these webinar series, just because we know live streaming is the big one.
Yeah, and I do want to highlight the PDF that's been put together. It has links out to all sorts of articles and blogs. So if you're like, man, he mentioned a lot of great stuff about cameras, and I was trying to, scribble something down, and I think I missed it. It links out where you can view the top 10 cameras for this or the top 10 microphones for that. So just a lot of great content packed in that PDF. And I'm sure the moderators are and have dropped the link to that in the discussion, but we'll be sure and email that out. And on that, I noticed that people were asking about some of the resources that we mentioned yesterday in our webinar. There was an email sent out this morning, so check for that if you haven't already. And if there was a specific thing that you wanted, just let us know and we'll make sure that you get it.
Yep. And something that came up, one of the questions, we're going to kind of enter just a Q&A kind of time for this webinar before we close out for today. But one question that came up, I thought that we could address, David, and kind of talk on a little bit is how to order a service online. Now that we're doing everything online, how do we approach that? And something that Casey actually said in our chat, I believe it was Casey, she said that we're still doing church. It's just how that has changed. That's it. So we're still doing all of the things in a service that would engage, that would bring people in, that would bring people to Christ. It's just the how, because we got to change the how right now because we can't come together in a building. We have to do it online. So there's definitely, I think Friday, is it Friday, David, that we have Jonathan with us, and we're going to talk about the order of services and just some resources there on Friday, a little bit more in depth. And I'm excited about that.
He's put together a great overview that's just like every idea you could think of for different parts of the service along the way, different points of interaction and engagement, ways that you can include your congregation, your kids. And what I love about it is there's no way one church could do it all. And I think that's the point, right? Right now, all of our churches are kind of going like, that's a cool idea, but I got to tweak it a little bit to make it fit our context. And so we'll have a discussion about that. And then we'll point you to a resource where you can kind of go through everything and check it out for yourself. And to your point, Tim, we didn't get to talk about it as much with Brandon today, but when we yesterday we were having a conversation with him, asking him about calling people and what that was like and how maybe that shifted his mentality. He was like, oh, our mentality is the same, right? Our mission has always been our mission. We're about what we've always been about. We just have to consider, how do we shift our methodology right now? And I think that's an important point. Your church's mission and vision have not changed. What we're talking about is approach and strategy.
Yeah. It's a good point, David. Definitely something for all of us to kind of keep in mind in this season. We're still doing what we've done. We just are changing the how. How are we going about doing it now? And that's what we're here for. That's why we're doing these daily webinars. It's to empower you with the tools that you need, the knowledge and the tools that you need to keep pushing the ministry forward, to keep sharing the good news. And that's what we're about here at Ministry Brands. That's why we're doing these daily webinars. And speaking on the daily webinars, I do want to remind everybody, I'm going to throw the slide up really quick, but we have some very exciting webinars coming up. Speaking of that, so tomorrow, again, we have Pastor Dave with us. He's a senior pastor at a church at Claymore Assembly. It's a different perspective than what we had today with Pastor Brandon. The perspective will be more of a rural church. He never had online giving. He gave for the first time online. He recorded a video and sent it out to his church, showing how easy it was. I think, didn't he hold up a piece of paper at the end?
He did. And I do want to point out, because it became a big topic of conversation, Casey kind of really took center stage in this webinar. And so we'll be talking to Casey's father there, which is an exciting thing. And so Casey herself will come and really talk about how to get online giving and text to give set up in your church. And so that'll be exciting too, because I know that live streaming and online giving are two of like the real big things churches are like. We want to make sure we've got that locked in, not just for Easter, but going forward. Yeah,
and it's going to be a great conversation. Casey is definitely the expert on the online giving nature, and I'm excited to have that conversation with her because she'll bring a great perspective. I think all of us will need with the approach of how do we go about doing giving online, because I know that's one of those big questions, those fears that churches have. How do we approach this without sounding like we're just after your money, which obviously you're not. I would say this, from all the conversations I've had with people, the people want to help the church in this time. They want to support their church because we are facilitating helping people find Christ, and they want to be a part of that. So it's going to be a great conversation. You're definitely not going to want to miss that. It's again tomorrow, starting at 2 p.m.
And I will say on that,
Eastern
like the
time,
question,
2 p.m. Eastern. I need to clarify real quick. Gotta add that. There's time zones. There's tons of time zones. 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And I do want to say the questions that you have about giving, they're not unique to you. Like, how do we get it set up? How hard is it for our congregation to do it? Is it safe? Is it secure? Like, those are common questions, and Casey is going to jump in and handle those and just give a lot of great insight.
Yep. And then another webinar that we have is we're not doing this webinar, but we want to promote it because it's definitely a webinar that you will want to go to as a church. It's the ADF webinar. It's Faith in a Time of Crisis. It's covering the grants that are available to a church from the CARES Act. Thank you, David. So that'll be a great webinar for you. We'll make sure that you have links to those we'll follow up with the information on that specific webinar. And then, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, Friday is our websites and mobile app with Jonathan Dethridge, and it's going to be a great conversation.
You handled that last name well. We keep wanting to say like Death Rage because it sounds so good.
Hey, I did great. You threw me
I
off,
know.
David. I looked at your face.
I said Jonathan because it's like the gravitational force. I just get pulled towards Death Rage. Well done.
Listen. This is David's fault, okay?
It is. That's like a common refrain around here.
Well, thank you, everyone. I know you have a lot more questions, and we will be here answering all of those. And then feel free to email us, and we will help answer those questions that way as well. And then again, the info page. We're going to keep the webinar up just for a little bit at the end here. So if you guys want to stay in chat and want to use that Q&A feature, the moderators will stay here answering the questions as you need them. And we'll see everyone here back tomorrow for our
Yes.
daily webinar series. We're excited. We hope you are too. Anything else, David?
I just want to say a lot of you here. Great having you. Tim, as always, I'm glad you got to spend this time with me. See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow. I love
You
it.
need a sign off, right? That's mine.
That was a terrible sign off, but I love it. It's fun. Here we go.